Afternoon, Warren.
Afternoon.
Morning. You said you wanted morning, yeah, exactly. You said you wanted to pick a strong side for both matches. You've done that, but the three changes you have made, are they all forced by injury?
A couple of them are. Justin Tipurick's got a little bit of got a knock on his ankle last week. He's fine, but we're just resting him as a precaution. Adam Baird's got a sore wrist. He's probably right for Saturday, but we've made that change early on. And
Anscombe for good.
Oh yeah, and Anscombe's is out for the season. So yeah, a couple of just precautionary and just resting players and not exposing them on Saturday that when they're a little bit sore. And so just taking any risk out of that, and obviously the Anscombe ones as a permanent change.
Given what's happened to Gareth Anscombe, were you tempted to rest down bigger and have a look at Jared Evans as a starter?
We've got the two Island games, or the next Island game before we select the squad. Jared will get time on the weekend. We've obviously got Reece Petrel as well, and trying to give him some game time too. So the fact we felt it was important that Dan started a game. He's been coming off the bench a lot for us in games and in the Six Nations, so it was important that we felt that he started a game and had that opportunity.
Just on that, Warren, with Gareth Anscombe's withdrawal, we've seen Dan, we know what he can do. How do you see Wales's style potentially changing in the next few weeks of the World Cup?
It's just about... we played, if you look back at the Six Nations and certain games, and tactically we know we can go into certain games, and we did that well in the Six Nations, like the way we played against England, and we went out last weekend to try and play a lot more attacking rugby. We made a lot more line breaks and stuff. Unfortunately, our error and turnover rate was pretty high. So again, on the weekend we're going to go out there and encourage the players to be positive in the way they play in terms of offloading and things. Our decision making was pretty good. Some of the execution wasn't brilliant when you look at George North. He's given that pass inside to Gareth. If it's a little bit softer and a bit, Gareth probably scores. Liam Williams, the pass to George North down the left hand side. If that's a better pass, he scores in the corner. So we're pretty happy with the chances we created, and just some of the execution needs to get a little bit better. And with that game under our belt, we encourage the guys to be positive in terms of the way that we play. We were disappointed with the first 20 minutes, but if you look at after the first 20 minutes, when England are up 14-0, the games we probably dominated the last 60. I think the scoreline was 19-all after that, and we were a lot better after that, so we expect to be better on Saturday.
And just in terms of your personnel in Japan, do you expect to take two fly halves, and if that's the case, Jared and Reece almost in a shootout?
Yeah, possibly. We've said that all along that it's a potential. We've told the players and spoken to them that we haven't made up our mind whether it's 3 9s, 2 10s, or 2 9s, 3 10s, and players being able to cover one of those other positions. So. And Jared gets an opportunity on the weekend, coming off the bench, and we need to give Reece Petrel some game time in the next couple of games as well.
Given that Lee Halfpenny hasn't played a lot of rugby for you over the last 12 months, were you tempted to have a look at him?
No, not at this stage, because we know with Lee, and I said it was an opportunity for that back three to play again, and then after that we need to look at giving other players a chance in the back three, and Lee. He may not play in the next game as well. We've got to find out about some other players too. Part of the thing about last weekend was, and with us, is it's easy enough to make a lot of changes, but some of the players would have been disappointed with the last weekend, in particular that first 20 minutes. And for us, it's about a chance to redeem ourselves and give those players another hit out and go out there and perform and put some pressure on them to perform as well. So, for us, it's a warm-up game and for getting things right for the World Cup. It's not the Six Nations, not competition. This is about preparing for Japan, and that's why we talked about the game and the 6-game turnaround, which is potentially what we're going to experience, or we are going to experience that between Georgia and Australia in those first 2 games, and that's why the planning for this week and having a couple of days rest, and the first time we trained was yesterday, so only a second session today, and how we cope with that short turnaround.
Lee was a guy who was such a mainstay for you. Is he a little behind where?
No, not at all. No, not at all. He's just been doing a lot of work with Neil Jenkins. He's been training exceptionally well. Depending on who the other 10 is, he's going to be important for us from a goal kicking perspective as well. So we need to keep that in mind. But no, he's been doing everything that's been asked for him. He's been a very important mainstay for us in the team for a number of years, and I'm sure he will continue to be that, and he will get some game time in the next couple of games.
How was Patrick been training? What's his confidence level?
He's been training pretty well. He's been getting better and better. We've been really impressed with Jared, and it's probably why he's got the nod in terms of an opportunity in the weekend. Very good in his attacking play. He needs to do a lot of work on his kicking. That's one aspect of his game that he would admit that probably at international level is not quite where it needs to be. So he's been working really hard with Neil Jenkins on his kicking and his out-of-hand kicking, not his goal kicking, but definitely his out-of-hand kicking. That's something he's been working hard on. And all the 10s have been working hard on that aspect. So, but from an attacking perspective at training, he's looked probably one of the sharpest of our 10s, and we want to see how he can potentially impose himself coming off the bench on the weekend.
Obviously, you had that situation for the 2011 World Cup with Priestland. Came in, took his chance. So there's always opportunities for these guys when you get a chance to do something.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a chance for everyone, and that's why for the guys there's a lot of pressure on those guys on the weekend, because if some of them don't front and don't perform, then they're opening the door for someone else. You win last weekend, you win this weekend, and you pretty much would have sealed potentially a starting spot for the first game or the first couple of games in the World Cup. But so that's what we wanted to make sure, that the players are aware and that they're under pressure, that if they don't perform well on Saturday, that they're opening the door for potentially someone else.
Speaking of chances, Warren, James Davies at 7, how big an opportunity is this for him?
Yeah, the thing with James is it's been tough for him because he's been really struggling with the back issues, and he's dug in terms of the way that he's pushed himself when he's been in a lot of pain. We've been trying to find out what's been wrong with his back. He's been scanned, he's had everything done neurally, he's been looked at. They really can't find what the issues are, but look, he's just dug in. It's a fantastic opportunity for him. We're really impressed with him in Argentina, and he's pretty fired up because he's kind of someone who's said that for his whole career everyone's knocked him, said he's too small, not able to compete at the highest level, and it's probably, we've probably had some of the same thoughts as well, but having coached him and been involved with him in Argentina, we were incredibly impressed with him. It's a great opportunity for him, and first time for a long time that 2 brothers have played for Wales as well.
Yeah, just on that, you mentioned that you might have had those concerns as well. When was it you feel like he started to maybe change your mind about his ability at the top level?
No, we've always been looking at him and seeing that potential from the way he played. He's been unfortunate that for a few campaigns he's had injuries, and he's been unlucky in that respect. But like I said, we were very impressed with him in Argentina, and the physicality that he brought. I think he scored a great try in the second test. Sort of on the flanks, he brought some great line speed defensively. But this is going to be a big step up for him against what will probably, or always will be, when you play England's going to be a big physical forward pack as well. So it's a great chance for him to go out there and stake a claim for that position.
When you had dinner with Eddie Jones the other night, Warren, did he tell you what kind of team he might pick for this second?
No, we didn't. We didn't talk about that. So,
what do you expect?
I expect a bit of mix and match. They named the World Cup squad, so I expect probably half the team from last week, and then bringing in a number of players that weren't involved.
Guys, we have a few minutes of bar now, please.
I think it's what you said at the beginning, Gareth Anson after the season. Do you know for a fact that he's not going to play until next summer?
He's done a ACL and a meniscus as well, so he's done a really good job on that. And it was actually he did it when he made the break down the sideline. That's on the video. Spoken to the physios, and they've shown that he just it wasn't from a tackle, and he just stepped off his right leg, and you can see the jarring on the video. He's done that, and he just said to the physios, he's heard, he felt he jarred his knee, and he stayed on there thinking he could run that off. But so he actually asked the physios and that in terms of, did I do any damage? He said, no, you didn't do any more damage, you'd already done that. It's not going to get any worse from doing that. So unfortunately, he's going to require surgery, and it's probably going to keep him out for most of the season.
The World Cup's such a long period of time, and obviously there'll be players who may not play at all. In terms of character off the pitch, does that come into your mind when selecting a team and how they react to that? Yeah,
absolutely. We've spoken to the players about that, and it's an important component about not just the players in the 23 or the starting 15, but how players apply themselves to the squad, and it's important to have that harmony within the squad. And you want players being incredibly competitive and disappointed when they're not selecting, but it's definitely one of the factors when you're looking at selecting a squad. How they are in the environment and how they handle the disappointment of missing out in selection, and how they react with interact with their teammates as well.
And from your time as coach, does it get any easier to manage those expectations?
No, it's always the hardest thing. It's the toughest thing about selection, is the disappointment that you have to deliver to players about missing out. And there's a lot of players who are disappointed they're not selected for this weekend, and it's a challenge. And we've spoken already to the players about how, when we name the World Cup squad, how do you want to be delivered the message? Do you want a phone call? Do you want to be text? Do you want an email or WhatsApp? In terms of that delivery of that message before the squad's announced. Obviously, however we deliver that, we'll follow that up with conversations. But that's kind of we've gone through that process already with the players.
Warren, is the Scrum an area of improvement for this weekend, and maybe look forward on what's improved after the last week?
Yeah, I think. I was really disappointed how the scrums were controlled. We've gone in there trying to be positive about how we've been told that they're going to be refereed, and we felt that there was a lot of early pushing and pre-engagement. So having spoken to World Rugby about that in terms of the way it's going to be managed and the way that we were originally told that the way it was going to be controlled, we felt definitely last Sunday that wasn't the case. We needed to react a little bit better to the way it was controlled, and we didn't do that. So the scrum definitely will improve this weekend.
Do you think the new laws are obviously going to take time for teams, not just Wales, to adapt? Maybe?
No, I don't think so. I just think that we're just looking for consistency, and the referees are. Yeah, they've got to come to terms with that. So if you go back and look at the scrums in our game, and then you look at the Ireland, Italy, or the South Africa Argentina game, they're completely different in terms of the way that the starting position, the setup is, and the engagement. So we're just making sure that we get clarity and consistency in that area.
What's the ongoing situation with Corey Hill and Rob Evans injuries? And when players like Anscombe are injured, I take it, tell me about your insurance covers their wages, isn't it?
I don't know about the insurance. I don't.
You put a statement up yesterday on that, haven't you?
Don't know. Corey Hill's, he's fine.
Rob?
He's starting to take a full part in training. He had the shoulder issue that had kept him out for a while, and then in Switzerland picked up a neck injury from some contact into some tackle bags. So yeah, look, he hasn't had a lot of contact in a lot of time, but there's a couple of players. If this was a World Cup game or a big game, I said Justin Tipuric would have been fit, Corey Hill would have been fit, Adam Baird would have been fit, and just there's no point in when players got a slight knock risking further injury when we go away next week that they wouldn't be able to take part in training next week. So, but those players are fit.
In the last Cardiff England-Wales game, Carl Stinker was quite prominent. What have you made of the way he's matured as a Test player for the last couple of years since you coached him?
Oh, look, he's. I saw Kyle on Sunday, shook his hand and things. I made a couple of comments about him during the Six Nations. Not so much as I think he was brilliant, played exceptionally well against us for most of that game. And for me, it's about players understanding some of their issues. We've got one or two players like that just need to be aware of their mindset on the pitch, and I'm sure as he gets a bit older and matures, he'll continue to get better as a player. There's no doubt he's an outstanding player. His work rate in the Six Nations for that time when he was on the pitch was outstanding. The number of tackles and carries he made. Sometimes you make comments about players, and it can be effective. You're making an issue. It wasn't so much about him. It was really. It was probably seeing the reaction of 3 or 4 other players, English players, that had more of an impact on him because they were constantly watching and looking out for him. And so he needs, and I think he will definitely improve from that. Sometimes you can make comments and it can be effective. Sometimes you can make comments and get your pants pulled down, which I made a comment about Dylan Hadleigh a few years ago, and he was man of the match, and it made me look like an idiot. So, So, look, there's no doubt that. Look, I want the best for Kyle. I think he's an outstanding player, and he knows there's a couple of things to work on in his game, and hopefully he does that.
How much better do you expect to be this week?
I think we'll be a lot better. I mean, we would, like I said, the first 20 minutes were disappointing, and we're 14-0 down. We got back into the game, and at 24-19, I think we were starting to put some pressure on them. We lost a crucial line out, and allowed them with a couple of penalties to force us to have to play a little bit of catch up. And the second half, they slowed the game down a lot to control that. So I think we'll be a lot better. And yeah, it's interesting when you talk to players who've been there in those situations before. Alan Wynne Jones saying, "Look, I've been to Twickenham before, and we're down 40-0 in a situation first 20 minutes where England put 40 points on us or 60 points on us in the past." So we showed some good character in coming back to 24-19, scored 3 tries each, and we've left 2 or 3 out there not converting opportunities. So there were a lot of positives about that, and just us being more accurate. So yeah, I do expect us to be a lot better and be more on edge. And we were pretty relaxed going into that game, and sometimes with this Welsh team, in my experience, we always play our best when we're on edge mentally, and we have to be on edge mentally, particularly because we don't have a huge amount of depth compared to other countries, but that can't always be driven by coaches, and so we were very probably didn't drive a lot of stuff from a coaching perspective, because that's not the time to do it. The time to do it is when the World Cup starts. But in saying that, the way that the players have responded in the first couple of days for this week, I expect us to be a lot better.
When you see
Final
people
word, please.
pretty confident going into it last week, and maybe perhaps your confidence in them wasn't quite as realised as you might have liked it.
Yeah, it's fair enough, and I was relaxed because it's not competition stuff. To me, it's pre-season. It's like pre-season with the club side. I don't get I kind of look at it when I've been involved with club sides in the past, and I don't worry about results in pre-season. I do worry about results in competition, and even though it's a test match and you're disappointed, it's not. It's working to a bigger objective and a greater goal, and that's what the World Cup is for us. And look at last time when we played England in warm-up games, we lost the first one away and won at home in a tight fixture. But by the end of it, we went in and had what we thought was a fantastic World Cup campaign, and so that's for us as the end goal. And you're not always, at this time of the year, you're not always preparing 100% for the game, because you're working on other things and longer term matches and fitness and conditioning as well.
Thank you very much, everyone.